In a quiet village nestled among rolling hills, where fields stretched wide under the endless sky, a farmer lived with his young son. The farmer tilled the earth, coaxing life from stubborn soil, while his son, a boy with bright eyes and a quick smile, helped where he could, carrying water, tending to the animals, or stacking firewood. The village was small, its people bound by shared labor and the rhythm of seasons, but it was led by a chief whose sharp tongue and quick judgments shaped the community's pulse. The chief was a man of stature, proud of his ability to size up others, and he often walked the village paths, dispensing opinions as freely as the wind carried dust. The chief had taken a particular interest in the farmer's son, not out of kindness, but because he saw in the boy an opportunity to prove his own cleverness. Each morning, as the sun climbed over the horizon, the chief would approach the boy, who often sat by the edge of the fields, watching the crops sway. In his hand, the chief held 2 coins, one of gold, gleaming with a promise of wealth, and one of silver, modest in its dull shine. He would extend both coins toward the boy, his voice carrying a challenge, asking which the boy would choose. Without hesitation, the boy always reached for the silver coin, tucking it into his pocket with a nod. The chief would laugh, a sharp, mocking sound, and declare the boy a fool, too simple to understand the value of gold over silver. The villagers, overhearing, would nod in agreement, their whispers weaving a narrative of the boy's supposed dimness. To them, the choice was obvious. Gold was rare, precious, a key to a better life. Silver was common, barely enough for a loaf of bread. The boy's decision became a story, a cautionary tale of missed opportunities, and the chief reveled in it, returning day after day to repeat the ritual. The farmer, though, began to notice the whispers. He heard the villagers' murmurs as he sold his harvest at the market, their pitying glances when he passed. They spoke of his son as though the boy were a burden, a mind too slow to rise above the dirt of their farm. At first, the farmer felt a pang of doubt, wondering if he had failed to teach his son the ways of the world. But he knew his boy, knew the spark in his eyes, the way he solved problems in the fields with quiet ingenuity. So one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of amber, the farmer sat with his son by their modest hearth. He asked, not with accusation but with curiosity, why the boy always chose the silver coin when the chief offered his test. The boy listened, his face calm, and then rose to fetch something from a corner of their small home. He returned with a wooden box, plain but sturdy, and opened it before his father. Inside, silver coins glinted, dozens of them, stacked neatly, catching the flicker of the firelight. The farmer's breath caught. The boy explained, his voice steady but soft, that he had chosen the silver coin not out of ignorance, but out of foresight. He had seen the chief's game for what it was, a test not of value, but of pride. If he had taken the gold coin, the chief would have walked away, satisfied with his own cleverness, and the game would have ended. But by choosing the silver, the boy ensured the chief's return, day after day, each visit yielding another coin. The box, filled to the brim, was proof of his patience, a quiet rebellion against the chief's judgment. The farmer looked at his son, his heart swelling with a mix of pride and awe. What others saw as folly was, in truth, a kind of wisdom, one that turned mockery into gain. The days that followed carried a new weight for the farmer. He watched his son move through the village, unbothered by the whispers, his steps light with purpose. The chief continued his ritual, unaware that each silver coin he handed over was a testament to the boy's cunning. The farmer began to see his son's choice as more than a clever trick. It was a lesson in resilience, in finding strength where others saw weakness. The boy could have chosen the gold, could have silenced the chief and the village with one grand gesture, but he chose instead a slower path, one that built something lasting out of small, overlooked moments. As seasons turned, the farmer found himself reflecting on his own life. He thought of the times he had chased quick gains, planting crops that promised fast yields but left the soil barren, or bartering for tools that gleamed but broke under strain. He saw now that his son's quiet strategy held a deeper truth. True progress often came not from the loudest victories, but from steady, deliberate steps. The boy's box of coins became a symbol, not just of wealth, but of the power of patience, of seeing beyond the moment to the possibilities that lay ahead. The village, too, began to shift. The farmer, emboldened by his son's wisdom, shared the story one evening at a gathering, his voice steady as he described the box of silver and the boy's reasoning. The villagers listened, their faces softening, then tightening with realization. The chief, present at the gathering, sat in silence, his usual confidence dimmed. The boy's choice, once a source of ridicule, now sparked murmurs of admiration. Some began to approach the boy, not with pity, but with questions, seeking his thoughts on matters small and large. The boy answered with the same quiet clarity, never boasting, never seeking to prove himself. His wisdom, once hidden behind a silver coin, began to reshape the village's heart. Years later, when the farmer grew old and the boy became a man, the village had changed. The fields flourished, not just from labor, but from ideas shared freely, from a community that had learned to look beyond appearances. The chief, humbled, no longer walked the paths with coins in hand, but with questions of his own, seeking the young man's counsel. The wooden box, still tucked in a corner of the farmer's home, remained a quiet reminder of a lesson hard learned, that wisdom often wears the guise of simplicity, and that true strength lies in seeing the long game, in choosing the path that builds, slowly but surely, towards something greater. The farmer in his final days looked at his son and saw not just a boy who had outwitted a village, but a man who had taught him to see the world anew. The lesson was clear. What others dismiss as foolish may hold a deeper truth, and the greatest victories are often won, not with a single shining moment, but with the steady accumulation of small, deliberate choices. The village thrived, not because of gold, but because of a boy who saw the value in silver, and in the power of patience to turn mockery into triumph.